Alright, if we go back, let me look at a finished product here. This is where we're going. Um, Doing the outline for our letter, giving a gradient to our star here, and also entering text in the middle here. So the first thing I want to do is get some things off our artboard so nothing becomes confusing and you don't click on anything that you don't need to click on, sorry. So I'm just going to turn off the visibility of everything except for what I need. And right now the only thing that you're going to need is the original letter that you use. I use the T for the initial of my first name. So I'm going to make a copy by just simply clicking on the layer and dragging it down to the new layer icon. It gives you a copy. I'm going to turn off the original so I don't get confused with what I'm seeing. Next, with the object selected, go to Object, Path, Offset. Enter these, 10 pixels, round, 5. If you click the preview button, you'll see that it added an extra stroke around your object. Now, on this particular step, we only want to use the stroke. We don't want to use the inside of the letter. So press OK. Now that you have two parts for this particular letter, we want to divide them. So in order to do that, we'll have our Pathfinder. If your Pathfinder isn't open, don't forget, every panel is under a window. So click on the window and then find Pathfinder. Okay, object still selected, press divide. Now once you divide two objects, they are still grouped. So you have to ungroup them in order to select just one. Or you can use the direct selection tool. Let's go to Object, Ungroup, and then select the inside of your letter and press delete. And notice you only have the outline of the letter. The next thing we're going to do is to clone or make a copy of our letter, and we're going to shift it a little bit so that we can make kind of a three-dimensional letter look. So the first thing you're going to do is just simply click on your object, hold down your Option key so that you see the double arrows. I'm going to zoom in for you guys so you can get a little closer here. Alright, selection tool, hold down your Option key, click, hold, drag. And if you notice, you get a copy. We're going to change the color of this particular copy. Instead of a black fill, we want a white fill. And we want our stroke to be that 80% black. So just type in 80 here and press return. So now we have the 80% stroke. And I want you to align it so that it looks as if it's a 3D letter. And you can do a little nudging with your arrow keys on your keyboard. I'll bring it up just a little bit. If you notice, it's in the upper left of the letter. So you get that three-dimensional look on your letter. Now, that's the letter. If I turn everything back on for the letter, this is what you see. That's the original letter here. Then we have our lines, wavy lines. And I think I want to move that over a little bit. One more. Let's move that over. I'm going to nudge that over a little bit so I don't see my lines. That's good. And I'm going to nudge that over to match back up with my other letter. You can move this all at once. It's just that I realized that everything was a little offset before I moved it. Okay, so that's your three-dimensional letter. And if you notice, everything is existing on its own layer so that it's easy to edit. So you want to make sure you guys do that. I do remember having an extra T in here, but I'll find that after the video. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is create the gradient for our star. So let's bring that back up. It's going to bring back up everything so that we see how things are looking at the moment. So we're going to edit this large star here. So I'm just going to go ahead and unlock everything. I can lock my T back if I want, since it's already finished with and I don't want to be able to click on it. You can lock the little band in the middle, and if you want to, you can lock that or turn off the visibility. If it's easier for you to turn off the visibility and work, please do so. Every artist works differently, even if they're trying to get to the same product. So for me, I can easily see where I need to go. I need to make sure that I'm on the large star here. And if you double click, considering it is a group, you enter the isolation mode. And you want to click on the beginning of your star. And we're going to enter a gradient for the star. So make sure your gradient panel is open. Go to gradient. You want to make sure that your gradient is radial. Right now I have mine on radial. If I click, you'll see that it applies the gradient. I don't want this color to be this dark. I want it to be the 20% black. So I'll double click, change this percentage to 20. So now it's not so distracting. I also want to change the point size of my blend to 0.5. And press return. You notice it gets a little thinner. So now we have our gradient on our star. We want to do the same thing for the small star here in the middle. We're not adding the gradient. You just want to make sure that you have that 0.5 for the star stroke. And I think mine is good. And don't forget, in order to exit isolation mode, you always press the escape button, or you can simply click on another tool that you're getting ready to use, and depending on what you're editing, you can do the same thing. But I'll just press escape to make it easy. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do is make sure that we are going to do our text. Let's look back over here. Notice I have some text in here. So we're going to do the same thing. Another thing I must point out is that I had to go through a lot to make sure my text entered correctly. And if you notice, I say my original banknote for me. And I even have to do a little bit of editing right here because I don't want that to touch. And I'll go over how you do that when we come here. So I want to keep everything visible right now. But I do want to have everything locked. I'm going to make a new layer. And I don't want the layer to appear above the T, even though it's not going to touch. I can have it below. I'm just going to stick it right there. And if you want to, you can add small text just to keep it from being confusing. So then the next step, you're going to enter, I'm just going to put it over here, 300 by 300 circle. You're going to move it to the center of your document. Don't forget there's two ways you can mark the center of your document. I'm going to go ahead and move this all the way up to the front since I'm working on it. Alright, when you're trying to align, don't forget you have your align tools here. If you don't have the align tools here, you should see the word align. So you click on it, you get the drop down menu. Right now I want to make sure that I align to the artboard because I want it directly in the center. So horizontal, align to the center, and then also vertical so it goes down. So now it's in the center. My T is offset to the right because I didn't want it dead in the center. Alright, the next thing we're going to do is to enter our text. Now prior to this, you guys downloaded and you entered you downloaded a new font, which is the United States font that you see on banknotes. So you're going to get your type tool, come to the very top, and then you begin to type your text. You want to make sure that you have your United States font on, and we'll try 21 for now. I think I had to resize that at some point, and I want to make sure that I have Black is good. Alright, I think I typed my original bank note. So I can spell right. For And right now I'm just going to leave it right where it is because now I want to flip the text so that it's reading from left to right. So with the object selected, you want to double click on the type tool. You want to make sure the rainbow is selected. You want baseline, but you want to make sure that the spacing is 0. If you flip next and you get the preview, you notice that your text has flipped to the inside of your object. Alright, so you press OK. Now there's some editing that you have to do in order for it to be the right size. If you notice, its circle is way too big. So I'm going to size it down. I'm just going to hold my shift key as I resize my text because I want it to appear in this white area. Make it a little bigger. And I'll eventually align it back. Now, I'm going to zoom in because there's some things that you guys need to do to edit your text. Before, you guys had to use the tracking to get the right spacing between your letters. If you go to Window, you go to Type, you click on Character, you will get the character palette open for your font. And this is the tracking that I'm speaking of. Now, some more things you can do when you're editing your type. Not only can you use spaces to get things correct, but like for instance, if you notice my type has started all the way up here, but I want it to slide down some, I'll zoom in a little closer so you can kind of see how the cursor changes. You should see that little line right here. Notice I'll click off, well, I'll move off, and I'll drag my cursor back. You have two lines here that are meeting. There's one that starts the beginning of the type, then there's another one that starts or marks the ending of the type. So what I want to do is just drag this so it moves my type from the top of my circle. I'll zoom out. Now if you notice, my text is like right over my type here. I don't want it behind or in front. I don't want it to touch that at all. So a couple of things you can do. You can work with the tracking, and you can work with spacing. You can also resize your type. So let's begin with resizing let's work with resizing my type from 20. Let's do 18 and see what I see. Alright, my original is good, but I don't want note to be across the T, so I'm simply going to use my space button or key to give myself some space between there. And I kind of want me to come about right there, but I don't want that space. So that's why I said depending on your letter, you may not have as many issues that I'm having trying to get my type in here. So you may use a different size. You can use your tracking. Let me see if I use my tracking. I may be able to put more space between the letters in order to get my bank to fit correctly and without having it too tight. I can even come in here and maybe add a space between the words. So everyone's will be a little bit different. So you have to work on your type in order to get yours to fit. And I'll size it down a little bit because you want your type to be in the white area. You don't want it to be in your design here. And so you can simply just go back and make sure you align it to the artboard, to the centers horizontally and vertically. Like I need to size mine down just a tad bit more. And I'm simply holding down my shift key and I'm resizing with the button here. So if you just move your things around, you can kind of see that. But I'm going to let you guys go from here to finish up your banknote so that we can begin working on another part of our currency or our banknote. So this is it for now.